lot
I
with
want to,
non-negotiables. We are a huge
yeah.
focus team on the person-centered plan. What is most important to that person? Because if I could rewrite the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated, would rewrite it to treat others as they would like to be treated.
Welcome to the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlow. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
Welcome back to the Row Room Assisted Living Podcast, the podcast that brings you expert insights from leaders in assisted living. I'm your host, Charlie Cameron, and today we're thrilled to have Linda Draayer with us today. She is the executive director of BrainCare LLC. We're going to get all into traumatic brain injuries, how that relates to dementia, and how best to care for those individuals as it relates to assisted living today. So, Linda, I want to say a huge welcome to you. Thank you for taking the time this morning. And I want to just kind of start with, can you give us your background and how you got into this space?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I was talking earlier, I think I'm dating myself because I figured out this week I've been in the field for now over 35 years. It has been an absolute honor and privilege. I started out as a CNA in high school in a small town in Iowa. I grew up on a farm, dairy farm, with people with disabilities on both sides of me. And I didn't find that to be unusual until I moved away and realized that not everybody has people with significant disabilities next to you on a farm in Iowa. So I have never known life without people that have special needs or have differing abilities. And I never really intended to get into the field, but I love to serve people. And one of the only jobs in town that paid well was CNA in a nursing home. So I started as a teenager, then went to college and got my degree in psychology, was intending to be a full-time counselor and needed to put food on the table. So I did some part-time work in an assisted living in my early 20s to help pay the bills. And honestly, have never left. I have been there ever since. A lot of longevity with facilities, 5 years out of college with a company in Wisconsin, recruited to another company from there for 18 years, where we built the company from the ground up. Same leadership team for 18 years with no turnover, which nowadays is unheard of.
Wow.
Decided to move to Colorado. I was interviewed with BrainCare and asked, how good are you at solving problems? And I thought, boy, I'm in for it. Coming into that, I had never truly specialized specifically with brain injury. I've always worked with people with disabilities in general, dual diagnosis, developmental disabilities, all kinds of different types of mental illness. But for the last 9 years, I have focused solely on brain injury and brain health. And it's been my honor to get to run BrainCare for 9 years now in Colorado Springs.
Wow. That is quite the journey. I love that you started out as a CNA in senior care. So you know a lot about that arena as well. That's pretty cool. So, Linda, when people hear the term brain health or brain care, what does that actually refer to?
A lot of people think a lot about heart health. They think about their general physical health, but they don't really realize that the brain is the epicenter of everything that occurs in our body. And to take care of the brain is one of the most important things that we can do, because as we know, statistics have indicated that more and more individuals are developing dementia, they're developing Alzheimer's, but there's a lot of unknown statistics with young individuals and older individuals that have traumatic brain injuries. And Colorado's in the top 10 in the nation for individuals that suffer from traumatic brain injuries for all various reasons. But one of the top reasons being our mountains and our sports associated with mountains and skiing and biking. But it's also a lot to do with violence. It's a lot to do with car accidents, all kinds of different reasons, falling off a coffee table. People develop traumatic brain injury.
And I assume you work with a lot of veterans as well?
We do. We used to have contracts with Wounded Warrior, We don't anymore because the military moved on to someone less expensive, but it was our honor. And we still absolutely have individuals with us that were veterans and have served in our military. We're honored to get to serve them.
Love that. As a veteran myself, and my partners are as well. And I do understand the brain injuries thing. We ski in Colorado every year, and yeah, it can be pretty intense out there. So what are some of the signals of a TBI? Let's say you have a fall on a ski hill. What would be, or even elderly in a facility, let's say, or in a home, what are some of the red flags to decide whether that injury truly is a TBI?
Yeah, sometimes for some individuals, they don't necessarily show up immediately. It can be a little bit further down the road, but some of the characteristics, common signs is just not feeling well, feeling dazed, feeling confused, feeling like you're in a fog. For some individuals, they will see flashes of light. They will have extreme sensitivity to light. There will be some nauseousness involved, headaches, blurred vision, sometimes ringing in the ears. Not everybody gets all the symptoms all the time. For some individuals, the symptoms are quite mild and they just shrug them off and don't really realize that it could be a concussion or a brain injury or something more significant.
Can you help define the difference between getting a concussion and when it becomes a traumatic brain injury? I think we've all had concussions, but what's the difference and when does one become the other? Is one?
Well, it mainly, and I'm not a medical expert, so please don't quote me on all of this. It mainly has to do with the severity of the damage to the brain. It has to do with where the damage is located, how extensive it is. Is there swelling of the brain? Is there brain bleed? What parts of the brain have been affected to what extent? Is the brain permanently damaged? Is it bruised? Can it heal? And the one thing we've definitely learned is age is a huge factor, because the younger our individuals are that have traumatic brain injuries, it seems like the quicker the brain bounces back, the body bounces back. But we see individuals that have very minor, you wouldn't be able to tell necessarily that they have a permanent brain injury unless you get to know them really extensively. And we have some individuals that are the equivalency of the 50 First Dates movie. They have a 3-second memory span. They have to relive everything multiple times throughout the day. They forget who they are within moments.
Wow, that's wild. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about TBIs?
That's a really great question. One of them is, oh, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. It's nothing permanent. I can just bounce right back from this and it's going to be no big deal. Most of the time, just like when you have pneumonia, a lot of people think pneumonia is no big deal, but pneumonia leaves a permanent scar on your immune system. Your immune system is never the same again. Brain injury is similar. When the brain is jolted, when the brain is abused somehow, it can recover, but it's never truly the same again. There is almost always some kind of lasting effect, unless it's incredibly minor that a person deals with. And so people think, just a little bit of time and I'm going to be back on my feet and it's going to be no problem. And some individuals, if it's minor, it can be weeks. But for a lot of individuals dealing with severe brain injuries, it's months to years in recovery. And the brain still, we find, can make significant changes 5-10 years or more down the line.
That's interesting. Talk to me about the relationship between TBIs and dementia.
Individuals with traumatic brain injury, the more brain injuries you have, the more concussions you have, the more injury to the brain, the more scars on the brain, and the more likely you are to develop Alzheimer's and dementia. Not getting into Alzheimer's, but there's a lot of studies out there with the NFL and repeated blows to the brain. And with those repeated blows, plaque starts to build up on the brain and it starts to entangle the brain. And people don't necessarily notice it right away, but down the road soon, there's symptoms. All of a sudden, the person can have severe headaches. They can have anger that they don't understand. So depending on where those entanglements and plaques begin, depends on the symptoms But for a lot of individuals, they just do not understand the severity of brain injury and how much of an impact it has on your daily life and how much of a chance then you have of developing dementia and Alzheimer's due to repeated damage to the brain.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Is there a statistic that relates the two?
I think I don't know it exactly, but it's 3 to 5 times greater chance, multiple times greater chance of developing Alzheimer's and dementia from having a brain injury.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't realize as well that it can be an injury that you sustained earlier in life that can affect you later in life.
Wow. Okay. So what are the best ways to treat TBIs, especially as you get older and it gets harder for those repairs to happen naturally?
Yeah, amazingly, one of the number one things that people don't think about that destroys our immune system and really inhibits with a person in healing from any kind of a brain injury is the quality of sleep. A vast majority, over 80% of Americans, do not get the kind of sleep that we need. And if you're not getting 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night, you're damaging your immune system. So one of the things that we find critical to the healing of a brain after a brain injury is adequate rest. And for individuals, sometimes that rest can be interrupted because the brain also helps control our sleep. And so one of the things we really focus on is the quality of sleep. But another huge one that directly ties to our brain health is our nutrition. And a lot of people don't want to hear that because they're like, oh man, I do not want to have to eat healthy. What we put in our mouths, I tell my team all the time, what we put in our mouths very much affects how we think, how we feel,
You are what you eat.
how we function, how much energy we have, how well we sleep. It all correlates, it all ties together. And of course, things that people think of is exercise. You know, the more that we exercise physically, the more that we send the good chemicals to the brain and release the good chemicals in the brain that can promote healing. But we do a lot of different exercises with our residents as far as the brain is concerned as well, in doing word finds, doing word searches, reading, doing puzzles, things that help to connect those neural pathways and reconnect neural pathways. And so we do a lot of things like music therapy, yoga therapy is huge. It connects mind and body. So we very much believe as a company in a holistic approach to treating people. If we can avoid medications as much as we possibly can, they're definitely there for a reason. They're wonderful. We use them. But if we can holistically work with a person through exercise, through diet, through sleep, we even use aromatherapy. It's amazing the results that can be produced.
Very interesting. Hopefully nobody is shocked to hear that just regular exercise, sleep, and nutrition is good for your brain in addition to everything else. It is very interesting that I'm pretty big into health and fitness and things, and done a couple like fitness challenges and stuff. It like 80% of body composition and fat loss comes down to your nutrition and your sleep, not the exercising you're doing, which is pretty wild. But most people don't, those are the harder ones for a lot of folks, which I find interesting, right? No, you just have to figure out how to get 7-8 hours of sleep. It's really not going to be good for you to get 5 to 6 hours every night for most people, right? Everybody has their sleep, their nominal amount, but
six is the minimum. You need at least 6.
Yeah.
So I used to be so upset because my kids can get by with 6 hours of sleep. I need 8. And then I learned through sleep study and studying sleep that the amount of sleep you need varies very much on the person. Some people truly need the 8 hours. Some people can very much get by with the 6.
Yeah. I have to force myself to go to bed between 9 and 10 because my son will be up before 6. So if I want to get adequate sleep, and he's not going to let anybody sleep, if I want to get adequate sleep, I got to get to bed on time. It is interesting. Like that sleep consistency, that sleep duration, it impacts every single part of your health, your cortisol and stress hormones and things like that. It's unbelievable. And all you gotta do is just lay there for an extra hour. Like it's, but we just don't value it. We undervalue the importance of sleep, the importance of nutrition. It is pretty wild. Okay. So let's say we have a loved one that's going through some sort of cognitive decline related to a TBI. What do families usually struggle with most in that situation?
Running a residential memory care home is
not just a calling. It's a maze of licensure, paperwork, zoning regulations, and day to day challenges that can feel overwhelming. That's why so many successful operators partner with Legato Living franchise. Legato Living does more than just help you open a home. They help you open it the right way so you can stay focused on what matters, providing exceptional care to those living with dementia. And once your doors are open, it can get lonely at the top. As a Legato Living franchisee, you are never on your own. Legato Living offers ongoing operational support from staff training and owner conferences to systems, cultures, and quality assurance because a home is only as good as its operator, and great operators deserve a great partner. If you're ready to open a residential memory care home that truly makes a difference, visit Legato Living and start with confidence today.
The biggest thing that we have to work with our residents and our families on is just the fact of what has occurred and rebuilding from where they were. And for some individuals, like we said, that's more minor. We work with them on their physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy intensively. And because their injury is more minor, we can, within months to a year, we can get them back on their feet, back in their homes, back living on their own. We have a tremendous amount of success stories there. For some individuals, it's redefining their whole world. For a lot of our individuals, the toughest thing is they've been cruising along in life, living their life normally as an adult or a young person. They have their family, they have their jobs, they're going back and forth every day, and all of a sudden something happens and they are no longer who they were before, and they're having to redefine. And so probably the biggest amount of work we do is just really in some intense counseling to help people understand you're not the same, but that's okay. It's okay that you're not the same, and it doesn't mean you can't be just as amazing as you were before, but it's not going to look the same as it did before. And I think what's ironic is the person seems to settle into that sometimes more easily than the family does. And so sometimes the families really struggle that this individual just isn't the same person anymore. And why can't you do what you can do to get them back to the way they were before?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a tough struggle for sure. I'm curious. So a lot of our members, as well as us, are the founders of the Row Room, are developing memory care, more boutique memory care homes, 10 to 16 residents, individual rooms, that kind of stuff. When it comes to operating these homes, what should folks be aware of when dementia is potentially caused by another source or a TBI? Like, how might we treat those individuals differently or care for them differently?
One of the big things that we have studied within our team, and I have spent a lot of time in, is just the focus of the environment. Because working with individuals as well in my career with autism, we know that certain lighting can sound like freight trains in their head to them if you have fluorescent lighting.
Interesting.
We know that for individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's, with sundowning, if the home looks so much different as the sun is setting and there are shadows, it can appear to be an entirely different home than what they're used to. Color can have an effect on people's behavior. If you've ever studied the power of color, it's fascinating because reds and oranges cause irritability. Orange elicits hunger. It's also one of the greatest colors of creativity, but prolonged exposure to it can cause agitation. So we've done a lot of studies with just the fact that you need to make the home familiar. You need to make it predictable. You need to make it safe, but you also need to make it calming. And one of the best ways to do that is through nature scenes, nature pictures, nature sounds, nothing that's too busy in the background. We find that some of the modern Art Deco pictures that you can't tell what they are, people get angry at and upset with because they cannot readily recognize it. Honestly, painting in blues and browns and greens and earth tones and just having things very simplistic. If a room gets too cluttered, if it gets too busy, if you have too many background noises occurring at the same time, the TV's on, the staff are talking, the doorbell's ringing, it can cause significant agitation. And so we use different things such as having places for people to escape, having covered porches, having comfortable chairs, having headphones where if it's getting to be too busy, they can listen to their favorite shows or favorite songs without all the other interrupted noises. But creating a very calm, predictable, soothing environment on a daily basis, we find is just absolutely critical, and you cannot do anything but.
Love that. Love that. And I've seen some of that implemented in some homes, like lighting that kind of changes the temperature throughout the day to help us with sundowning. And what other design features or social engagement or routines and structures do you see help?
One of the things that almost everyone that we serve relates to somehow is music. And so for individuals, it's really critical to figure out what soothes them. And for different people, it's different things. Another really huge important thing, one of the last senses that people lose when they have dementia and Alzheimer's is the sense of touch. So we just had a training with our team this week. I teach a training called Hostage Negotiations 101. And I know it sounds funny, but it's a blueprint of how to treat humans in a general way, in creating hope, in creating options for them, being sincere in how we talk with them, our tone, asking questions, not assuming, being gentle, treating people with equality. One of the big things I've learned in working with individuals that have varying capabilities is my staff will start talking to them like they're a child, or they'll start talking to them as though they're not capable and they're not intelligent, and nobody wants to feel that way. So one of the most important things that we achieve and work with individuals is treating them always as equals and always offering a choice. Would you like coffee or orange juice? Would you like to wear this or this? When we've taken away a lot of people's freedom, it is so critical to have those choices. But one of the other things that people a lot of times lack, especially as we get older, is human touch. And touch is so important, but sometimes touch can be a really sensitive topic for people, and staff don't feel comfortable giving that touch. But we will bring massage therapists into the home, and some of them are students and they're needing to get time in, and they will volunteer their time. But we find for some individuals that touch in a controlled and loving setting and familiar setting can make all the difference to them feeling better and being less agitated and less anxious during the day.
Wow. I love all of that. I want to dig deeper into the music here in a second, but if there's weekly massages offered, I'm in. Sign me up.
I know. I'm often jealous of our homes.
Yeah, I think touch is, it's so underrated. And a lot of times the seniors, they're not seeing their families all that much. So even just the holding of the hand while having a conversation, I think means a lot.
Yeah.
It is funny what you said about the conversations and having adult conversations and giving options. I think of it like my kids are between 5 and 8 right now. And it sounds exactly the same. Like they're smart. They don't want to be treated like a child. That I talk to them as if they're adults. And if I just offer them all you're getting with dinner is milk, there will be an absolute meltdown. But if I give the option of water or milk, all of a sudden there's a choice and they're fine with it. So it's really not that different.
It's all about control.
Yeah.
And I really encourage people, if you haven't gone back to the basic of looking at humans' 9 inherent needs, if those inherent needs aren't being met, you're missing the boat. And that's for every human being. People need that sense of autonomy. They need that sense of control. They need that sense of being in a wider community. They need that sense of belonging to something greater than they are. And if those basic needs just aren't being met, you are going to struggle with behavior and they're not going to be happy.
Okay, I had to look up the needs here. Is this the Manfred Max Neef 9 fundamental needs?
Exactly.
Okay, for the listeners, because I'm not a psychology anything. I was an engineer. So this all usually comes as a surprise to me. Oh, we have needs. And how do we, what are they? All right, I'm going to read them off here for the listeners here. We got subsistence, right? That's your physical health, food, shelter, protection, safety, care, security, affection, love, friendship, intimacy, understanding, knowledge, curiosity, learning, participation, involvement, belonging, engagement with others, leisure, time for reflection, play, relaxation, creation, productivity, expression, and innovation. Love that. identity is self, belonging, and personal history, and freedom, like you said, autonomy, choice, and liberty.
Exactly.
This is a great list. This is a great list. I wonder which of these I'm not helping myself with.
And that's truly what I developed my hostage training off of. Because like I said, I call it a basic blueprint for human behavior. It works with any relationship with anyone at any time.
Yeah.
And so it's just critical to not miss. I tell my staff when you walk in daily, know what that baseline is, know when that baseline is off, and ask questions. Don't assume that we understand. We had a gentleman that died of leukemia in our care, and I assumed that he was afraid of dying. I couldn't have been more wrong. He was afraid with his autism involved of being buried in a box. And that was what was causing his behavior. So I tell staff all the time, do not assume anything. Ask questions. Even if it seems obvious, get to the bottom, ask questions, find out what's going on. A great percentage of how we act every day and how we behave is directly linked to our physical health. So one of the first things I ask them to start asking is, do you have any pain anywhere? Do you hurt anywhere? Have you slept well enough? Do we need to take a nap? It's amazing what a 20-minute nap can do for human behavior.
Yeah.
So it's
seriously.
really just getting down to the bottom and figuring out what of those human needs you listed aren't being met and how can we meet those needs.
Gosh, I love that. And man, naps are underrated. I'm not a napper. I never was. But now that I'm in my mid 30s, or my father-in-law would say late 30s, 37, I've come to enjoy a nap every now and then a little more. And it typically is, okay, it's a Friday afternoon. It's been a long week. The kids are going to be home soon. How do I want to show up for them? I'm not feeling great. Like maybe I need to just take an hour, lay down. Tell you what, every time I do that, I am such a better human being to be around, right? And so it's like, all right, we need to embrace the nap. It's okay every now and then to just let your body tell you what it needs.
And
Linda, tell me a little bit. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
We worked a lot with non-negotiables. We are a huge focus team on the person-centered plan. What is most important to that person? Because if I could rewrite the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated, would rewrite it to treat others as they would like to be treated. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is we want to help people in ways that help ourselves, and we completely miss the boat. If I'm giving someone a skill that's more physical in nature and they need to talk it out, I'm missing the boat. But if I'm comfortable with talking it out and not offering something physical, then I'm not as likely to do that. So one of the big things we teach our staff is you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. And you're going to have to figure out what it is that person needs and the best way they need it. And one of the first ways we start with that is, what are the person's non-negotiables? What do they have to have every day that they simply cannot live without? Take my coffee away from me every day and I'm going to be swinging at you. That is one of mine. We try to identify what are those simple things that people just can't live without. And a lot of times they really are quite simple. And they're not huge things. And we try to make sure to implement those into their everyday.
I love that. I want to relate this a little bit to the 5 love languages. You're familiar?
One of my favorite books. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of couples get hung up on this. It's like, why is my significant other not doing the things that that make me feel good? And it's because you're different people and you have different love languages, and your primary love language is usually not your spouse's. And so you have to decide what effort you want to put in. Do you want to meet your spouse at their love language and deliver that for them because you love them, even though it's not yours at all, and you don't even understand why they like receiving gifts or whatever it may be, or quality time or whatever, physical touch. It's just that you have to decide. But guess what? If you deliver that, your spouse's primary and maybe their secondary love language to them, they're going to reciprocate and deliver yours. But you need to have that conversation, understand what are their needs versus mine, because they're not the same. They're not the same. And it's pretty wild how long people are in relationships before they even realize that, right? And it's funny that, like, in the honeymoon phase, you do all the things in the 5 categories, right? And so you don't realize until you settle into a relationship in the long term that yours aren't being met. Why is that? Maybe because you're not meeting theirs. So anyway, I couldn't agree more. My husband and I have been married 34 years this year. And I can honestly say that as that time has evolved, even our love languages have evolved somewhat. True. That's true.
It's not,
You
it's
didn't get
not
to
quite
check
the
in.
same anymore that we're in our 50s as they were when we were in our 20s. And we
Yeah.
actually teach the love languages with our staff as well. So
Love
it's
that.
really important that you are able to relate to the people you serve with the kind of love in the way that they need to have it. And are you spending that quality time? Are you giving appropriate physical touch? Are you bringing them that gift that doesn't have to be a big deal, but it makes all the difference? What's ironic is most of our residents don't need acts of service because they have staff that are there helping
Yeah.
them, serving them.
That's literally what they're paying for. Yeah.
Most often
Yeah.
not top on their list. But yeah, I think those things are that's another human blueprint to success that if people haven't read that or studied the five love languages, they absolutely need to.
That would be a really good intake question for families of loved ones. What is your loved one's primary and secondary love language? And if they don't have an answer, that's pretty interesting.
Yes.
All right, Linda, thank you for coming on today. We're going to turn this now into a relationship podcast. And for everyone listening that's married, you have homework tonight. I want you to go home. I want you to look up the 5 love languages, and I want you to sit down with your significant other and have a discussion about it. Just talk through what all 5 are and ask your spouse what they think their top ones are. Give them your opinion on what you think their top ones are, and do vice versa. You are going to learn a shit ton tonight about your spouse that will improve your relationship for the rest of your life. So congratulations. Also read the book, and you should read it aloud together. I found that to be a pretty useful exercise. But anyway, we're fixing marriages and TBIs. That's what we're here to do today.
Tying it back to brain injury, though, it's critical because if that person feels good, the brain's going to heal quicker. And if that person is feeling like the needs are being met, dementia may not onset as quickly or be as rough. And so it really does all tie. It all ties together.
I love that. Okay, I want to come back to my other question is music. Do you find certain types of music? Do you find certain types a day? Do you have music playing for everyone to hear? Do you individualize the music? Like how does that play in, and how do you implement that?
One of the things as part of our person-centered plan is we ask the questions of what the favorites are. So we already know before the resident moves in what favorite music they have. And so if they're having a tough time, we will suggest, hey, why don't you go listen to some Def Leppard, or why don't you go listen to classics? It's a little Eagles, maybe. Everybody's completely different in their music styles. But what's amazing is I rarely ever in my life, I started out as a music major in college. Very rarely I have found people in life that don't relate to music somehow or gravitate toward music when they're happy, they're upset, they're sad.
It's a human thing. That's why toddlers know how to dance.
What they love. Yeah. And so our music therapists that we bring into the home and we pay for, they know all of our residents' favorite songs because our homes are no more than 8 residents a home, and they will do all different genres of music while they're there. And we have found that other residents in the home that absolutely hate certain kinds of music over time with the therapist coming in have really learned to appreciate other people's styles and genres.
That just sounds like a funny term for a DJ.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's great. Music soothes. So
it does. It's something we all relate to, and it's something that humans have had since the beginning of Homo sapiens. It's just wild. It's something that has transcended time. Easy. It's something that can relate people that can't even speak the same language, right? It's universal.
100%.
Goodness, this is a fun one. I'm having way too much fun, Linda. Thank you for this. Okay, let's do just one kind of forward-looking question, and then we can wrap it up. With Alzheimer's rates projected to increase dramatically in the coming decades, how do you see taking care of brain health and memory care evolving in that time frame?
It's just that much more critical. I think one of the biggest things we always say is awareness. And so I'm all about prevention. And so for our listeners, doing what you can every day to take care of your brain health and encourage those around you to take care of their brain health. And you see the commercials on TV for Prevagen and stuff like that. You're starting to see much more of that because people are realizing just how critical that brain health is. And so just small ways that people can lessen their chances of getting dementia and Alzheimer's, and putting those things into practice on a daily basis. And for the people we serve, things that can help promote healing of the brain and to lessen things intensifying more quickly is absolutely our goal and our focus. So I think most people's attitude, I think if it's going to be a really great one, is prevention, and just really doing what we can every day in every aspect of our lives to figure out what can we do to improve things. And I always tell people, don't do something cold turkey. You're going to hate yourself by the end of the day. Pick up I used to be a soccer coach for 9 years. Pick up a good habit every day. Just take that 10-minute time out and take a 20-minute nap, or pick up a book and read it for a while, or do a crossword puzzle or a word search, fine, for 10 minutes, not to the point where you get frustrated, but one small habit daily added can really just make all the difference.
Yeah, for the listeners, Atomic Habits is an incredible read. If you haven't read it, a lot of the premises, if you just make 1% changes over time, that compounds exponentially and really changes your entire life. And yeah, that's one of my favorite reads for sure. So I think that can apply too. So now you have 2 books to read tonight, everyone. Just get it done. That's a good audiobook. Just listen to that one while you're running or on the way to work. But Linda, this has been awesome. I've had a lot of fun with this episode. I really want to thank you for coming on. If listeners want to learn more about BrainCare LLC and how they can leverage that, especially in their assisted living homes, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. They can always check out our website, braincarellc.com, and they can always give me a call at 719-217-8850. I'm happy to talk with people. Love that part. One of the most favorite parts of my job is getting to meet people and help people. And then just BrainCare has been in business for 27 years. We're often told that we're an incredibly well-kept secret in Colorado Springs. People don't know we exist. But when families do, they're like, oh my God, I wish we would have found you so much sooner. And a lot of our residents that come to us, if we can't kick them back out on their own, we have them long-term. They stay with us long-term. They don't move. So hopefully we're doing something right in that regard, and creating that home that anyone would be comfortable in and be happy living within.
I love that. And just for our listeners, can you just talk a little bit more about the services you guys offer?
Yeah, so we're a 24/7, 365 assisted living, supported living program through the state of Colorado. We operate pretty specifically through the Medicaid brain injury waiver. We do take private pay as well, which we do have on occasion, but a lot of people, if they qualify for Medicaid, they will, if they have any kind of a brain injury, it can be as a childhood injury, but if it's affected their ability to need help or live on their own, will often qualify for that waiver. And so we provide 24-hour awake support. We are very much dressed in plain clothing, so it's as much of a normal home feeling as possible. We have 6 homes, 5 in the Springs and 1 in Pueblo West. They're absolutely gorgeous homes. Each resident has their own bedroom. It's operated very much like a normal home setting. We just believe that it needs to be inviting, comfortable, relaxing, fun. We do the environmental things I was talking with you about. So it's a great program. And like I said, one of the greatest things we get to see is people progress. We have people that come in that cannot walk and talk, and now use a cane and talk our ear off. So quite frankly, we get to see miracles occur pretty frequently, and absolutely love what we do.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I wish you all the best in those endeavors and healing as many people as possible. And really, thank you, Linda, so much for your time today. Your experience is invaluable. And we look forward to having you on in the future to hear how things are going.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raw Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is theralroom.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey. Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.